that bitch ain't going fucking nowhere, bud. Oh, cut it! Fuel! Last video you saw us put a new carburetor on the Ranchero, and we finally got it driving around. The suspension was just making tons of noise, and it was clicking, and the car was sitting really, really low. And it looks really cool, but at the end of the day, getting over speed bumps is an issue, getting a jack underneath the car is an issue. It ended up just being not convenient, and this car being a daily driver, I felt like it needed to be more dailyable. So decided to, change out some of the suspension. My first goal was to start with the fronts. I ordered a set of springs that were the stock height springs for the car because I kind of thought they were cut. And I also ordered some sway bar end links because we were hearing clicking. It was either sway bar end links or tie rod ends. And I looked at the tie rod ends just by turning the wheel and looking in there, and they looked fine. So I didn't think there was anything wrong with them. We were working on the Miata, and towards the end of the day, I decided I thought I could get a lot of the Ranchero stuff done before the end of the day and at least get the old springs out. First thing I did was do the new sway bar end links because it was super quick. I got my torque gun, zipped the old ones out, and I zipped the new ones in. It probably took 20 minutes at most to zip the old ones in and out. Oh, that bitch ain't going fucking nowhere, bud. The new ones are beautiful. They're nice. They got really hard bushings on them. They went in and in really simply. Like, we were on such a roll with the sway bar end links that I was like, oh, there's gotta be enough light to get the springs out at least tonight. They were a little bit more difficult than I thought they were gonna be. They really didn't want to come out.
Oh, it is. It was earlier. Whoa, a classic.
We were using the spring compressors that codenamed the Widowmakers. So I've used them before, and honestly, they've been fine. These springs are really big. They almost look like truck springs. I mean, they're like huge. It was kind of hard because to get them down tight enough to get them out was the issue. And I kind of thought you had to take the whole assembly out, the spring and the shock as one unit.
Nice.
Just got the spring out of the Ranchero. This is the new one going in. It's not smaller, it just looks like it might have just been really worn, right?
It's definitely smaller. It looks like a full ring smaller, low-key.
But these are new springs, and then we just took these out and realized the rebound's really good, but the compression, there's no compression. Look, the rebound's great. Like, to pull it out is awesome, but oh, no, it's not. Never mind.
Buy new struts. Hashtag.
Yo, this thing is sucking. It was getting like dark now. Ripped out the other side pretty much. I mean, it went a lot quicker obviously because we already knew what bolts to take out. We gotta get this stupid done before f***ing sunset. I hate spring compressors.
Oh, the crowbar. Crowbar sound.
Oh. How's this one? This one is honestly better. Still shite. We're going to SEMA. We got it all out in 24 hours. The struts themselves were absolutely shot. At that point, I know I needed new struts, and that's kind of where the storm started on this project. That ended up taking it almost 4.5 weeks, I think, to get this project done, and most of it was just waiting for parts. So I made an order with AutoZone with a bunch of different parts in it, and including the struts that I was buying because I just was gonna get them in, and I thought they'd be in the next day because they're pretty common struts. They just didn't come in. Eventually I just gave up on it. Summit had them for half the price and they got them to me the next day or 2 days later, I think it was. But while I was waiting for the shocks to come in, I actually looked online and it seemed like I could install the springs first and then install the shocks later. These are also busted. Also, the joints are coming out and tons of stuff around. So these are busted. Problem being, can't get new shocks right now. Oh, the spring's just rolling away. AutoZone didn't get them here in time, which is what it is. They're usually good, but whatever. We're gonna put these brackets back in, and hopefully when the shocks come, we'll be able to just mount them from the top and go in here and bolt them up. So we're gonna put this back in today, and then we're gonna compress the spring down and put it on here. That way we're ready when the struts finally come in. These are Widowmakers. They are dangerous.
Hence the Widowmaker.
Okay, hence the Widowmaker statement. So we're gonna put this on this new spring, which I have, and we're gonna put spring compressors on this. Hopefully this goes as planned, and we don't have too many issues. It is pretty important that it's as straight as possible. Like obviously because the spring curves, it can't be completely straight, but you want it to be as in line as possible. And then the second one you put on, basically it's 180 degrees out of the other spring. Because if you don't, your car's just going to kind of contract on one side more than another. And that's when it gets dangerous. You needed to compress the new springs so much more than you needed to compress the old springs. And I felt like we were really pushing the limits of our spring compressor. We were putting the new springs in, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. We had to flip a couple parts back and forth a couple times to try to get it in there, but we eventually got it in. I'd say it was like 2 or 3 days later, the front struts finally came in. Today, we need to put this on the car, the shocks on the car, and then we need to raise the back up. There should be an airline somewhere. We're gonna find that airline and hopefully pump the car up a little bit. I'm basically trying to figure out how these go. I think they go like this. And then I think washers go on here once we get it on. This drops all the way through and goes on the lower control arm. So we're gonna do that. And honestly, it was a breeze. They come with all new everything for them. So put them in the bottom, and there is one bolt in the top with a top hat. I think I got it in there. I might have to just send that on bolt check on this. Okay, I think they'll come out.
How low is he gonna go? Oh my God, that's very high.
Yo, it's sitting so much higher. It's gonna fall down a little bit.
This side's already lowered because you've been pressing on it.
Yeah, it'll come lower. The rear shocks in this car, from when we bought the car, we knew they were air shocks. Air shocks have little nozzles somewhere on your car that you're able to actually pump air into and literally pump the car up, like raise car up, like all people think about bags. It's like an old technology. It was more used, I think, for drag racing and stuff. But the more air you have in your shock, the less compression you have, and then the less you have, the more compression you have. But you're able to adjust your rears a little bit. Our main goal was to find the nozzle for the air shocks and just pump them up because they should be pumpable. We should be able to pump them up and it should sit more even in the rear. The front set really high up once we put the new springs and struts on there, so we just needed to raise that rear to match it.
Dry as a bone.
So we started the car and we were gonna put it up on the ramps to get the car up high so we can get underneath of it and look for the nozzle to pump the air shocks up. And we started the car, every time I put it in drive, it would just like conk out and die. So I was like, oh, I gotta idle it up a little bit.
Listen to that burly American V8.
Oh, cut it! Fuel!
Oh. Well, nothing leaked out the bottom.
Why the f is it leaking fuel? That was almost really, 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 really bad. The hose that comes from the fuel pump up from the back of the car onto the carburetor, I guess wasn't super tight. And so gas is spreading everywhere. So I obviously freak out and I run up and I shut down the car and I run back around with some towels and damp all the gas off. But like if I hadn't opened the hood, if someone had told me that like, oh shoot, I gotta go adjust, idle and open this hood up, I probably could have burnt the car down. I mean, it was a lot of gas. We don't really have a good video of it, but it was a lot of gas all over the top of the engine. Like every single part of the top manifold was just filled with just gas sitting there. After the fuel fiasco and then looking over all the airlines, not be able to find anything behind the car, we decided I was gonna need another day to work on the rear suspension. I think the engine has to come out of the car. It's not a fun time.